Hi, my name is Ridgway. I'm fairly new to these meetings. My husband, Sean, was diagnosed with multiple myeloma 2 years ago, almost to the week. He's not here today, I don't think. He's recently become strong enough to start riding his motorcycle again, so he took the morning off and enjoyed the day. I've recently become involved, Suzanne as well, with an initiative called a Priority Setting Partnership for Multiple Myeloma. This is an initiative, it's coming out of the Eastern Health Network in New Brunswick through one of the hematologists there. And they've created a steering committee of patients, caregivers, doctors, nurses to guide this process. So I'm going to just give a brief presentation on what it is because it will affect everyone here, hopefully. Okay, so this priority setting process follows something called a James Lind Alliance. And the underlying premise is that research often overlooks the shared interests of patients, caregivers, and clinicians. As a result, questions that they all consider important are not addressed. And many of the potentially important research are therefore neglected. The James Lind Alliance exists to help address this imbalance. Even when researchers address questions of importance to patients and clinicians, they often fail to provide answers. They often fail to provide answers that are useful in the practice. Another purpose of this is therefore to address the mismatch between what researchers want in research and what the practical information that is needed day-to-day by patients and healthcare professionals. The priority setting partnerships enables clinicians, patients, and caregivers to work together to identify and prioritize uncertainties in particular areas of health and care that could be answered by research. The James Lind Alliance facilitates these partnerships. And the funding and the organizing is done by the Priority Setting Partnership, or the PSP itself. The funding for our myeloma PSP has been provided by Myeloma Canada. Myeloma Canada is not running this research, but they are fully supporting it on a funding basis. We focus on specific conditions or healthcare settings which bring the patient, the caregiver, and clinician groups together on an equal footing. We identify uncertainties, questions which can't be answered by existing research, which are important to all groups, and to work with all groups to jointly prioritize identified uncertainties. And then we ultimately produce a top 10 question or concern out of maybe 500. We whittle it down. Here are just a few examples of priority setting partnerships that have been completed. All of them are available online if you're interested in reading more. As you can see, there's a wide variety, and many of them have been done right here in Canada. To date, there's been nothing for Myeloma Canada, and this will be the first of its kind. As an example, they've produced what the PSP for dementia was. So you can see some of the questions here, which really deal with support, stigma, different issues which research alone doesn't target. And that's what we're trying to achieve through this myeloma PSP. If there are day-to-day issues that you as a patient or caregiver face, that will become a list, something like this here. Why is this survey important? This survey gives you, people living in the myeloma community, their caregivers, their healthcare providers, the opportunity to tell us what is most important to you about myeloma so that we can share your priorities with research funders. This is the time for you to be heard. Who should participate in the survey? All patients, caregivers, healthcare providers, clinicians, nurses should participate. What is involved if I take part of this survey? the survey will be going out through the Myeloma Canada website. For anyone who is on the mailing list, you will be getting an email with the direct link to fill out this survey, or you can print it out and fill it in online if you prefer to have it sent back. The questions are quite detailed, I think, and my husband and I sat down to do a sample survey, and I found they do require you to sit down and actually think about things and give thought to it, and sometimes it's not that easy. But I do think it's very important. On the survey, you'll be asked to complete a brief survey of your own experience with myeloma and provide any questions that you have that have come out of your experience. The survey will take about 10 minutes to complete. I think maybe a little longer than that, actually. And any questions that you do not want to answer, you don't have to. Once the survey is completed, you can submit it online or mail it in. You can also save it for later to complete it later if you have run short of time. Is there any questions about this initiative? I really hope that all of you take part, even people you don't know if your family members have been directly involved in your care or your doctor visits. I encourage any family member that's close or yourselves, because everyone's questions will be heard and they'll be compiled, and we will, we'll be sharing with everyone who participated the top 10. So, any questions? When
is the email coming out?
The email coming out, I think, we don't know. I think it's going to be maybe September. I know there's actually been a lot of surveys coming through Myeloma Canada, so I hope it's not confusing because it is something different. But I think they're aiming to have the survey out in the fall, so maybe September. The other thing, if you aren't linked up with Myeloma Canada at this point, Suzanne had said contact her. And she'll be giving out her coordinates. You can reach out to her if you'd like access to this information.
I think the interesting, exciting thing about this is that, myeloma, as we all know, it's not like breast cancer, and everybody knows about it, and there's, everyone's wearing pink tutus, and there's, all these things going on, and I think there's so much work to be done within the myeloma community. My area of interest is really looking at the psychosocial needs of patients and families with myeloma, and when I started looking at my own research that I'm doing, there's really nothing out there at all, anywhere in the world. So there's lots and lots of things that you as a group can identify as to what you want to hear more about. And I think this is a really, really, really good opportunity, and it's a very, very exciting project.